Hello everyone, this is Anthony Smith, a retired Special Warfare Butt Operator. I am conducting interviews with retired and former SWCC operators. We are talking about operator syndrome and SWCC TBI, major orthopedic injuries. This is interview number 18, and I'm talking with Ryan Hurd, and here is Ryan.
My name is Ryan Hurd. I was in SWCC class 26. I did over 19 years as a SWCC, and I deployed 8 times as a SWCC, 8 full deployments, and was at a couple of different teams, and I did a total of 24 years in the Navy.
All right, cool. Interview number 18 is a testimonial of Ryan's medical records and conditions. He answered questions from the following questionnaire formats and gave permission to produce this presentation and share it openly. We covered the operator syndrome scale, the GAD-7 scale, the PLC-5 scale, the PHQ-9, the NSI neurobehavioral symptoms inventory, and a brief SWCC background questionnaire. So Ryan served in the United States Navy for 24 years. He spent 19 years as a SWCC operator. He was in SWCC class 26, graduating in 1998. He did 8 SWCC deployments. He served at SBT 12, 20, spent a little time at 22, and then finished up his career at Group 4. He worked on 11-meter ribs, Mark V, SOCRs, CCAs, and did some work on jet skis. He has probably about 24,000 hours of time on SWCC boats and an estimated 2.9 million weight-pounding events causing whiplash and possible mTBI. So Navy SWCC is a special class of elite naval warriors who have been a decisive force behind some of America's most important secret missions. Special boat operations have unique and often deadly challenges due to the combination of operating powerful, sophisticated machines designed for speed and stealth in some of the planet's most inhospitable environments. The average SWCC career operator experiences mTBI and major orthopedic injuries over the course of their career in peacetime and in war. And Naval Special Warfare conducts missions in over 70 countries, 365 days a year. The sum of SWCC injury does not accumulate until the operator retires. Before we talk more about the interview, we need to briefly discuss operator syndrome. Operator syndrome is not a diagnosis. It is a qualitative, descriptive framework of a nexus of symptoms and illnesses, and it was coined by Dr. Christopher Free. There's a DOI link to it there, and we're going to be talking about operator syndrome and as it pertains to SWCC operators. So operator syndrome is a nexus of psychiatric illnesses and disorders along with chronic major orthopedic injuries as defined in the literature. Operator syndrome affects all SOF forces, that's all special operations forces from every major branch due to the nature of our job and our training and our deployment cycles and our high op tempo. There's a list of different SOF units right there throughout the branches, and SWCC is included in this group of SOF operators. So operator syndrome, this framework, there are a lot of symptoms involved, a lot of illnesses and injury. Basically everything you see here is the culmination of things. Everything in red are the things that Ryan is currently dealing with. Traumatic brain injury, endocrine dysfunction, sleep disturbance, sleep apnea. He has chronic joint pain, back pain, orthopedic problems, and headaches and migraines. He has depression, PTSD, anger, issues with worry, rumination, and stress reactivity. Some marital, family, and community dysfunction, problems with sexual health and intimacy, being on guard and hypervigilant, memory, concentration, and cognitive impairments, vestibular and vision impairments. Some challenges of the transition from military to civilian life to include survivor's guilt. So digging deeper into Ryan's issues, a lot of things due to SWCC boat operations, but he has a diagnosis of traumatic brain injury. He did go to NICO while he was active duty. He does have a VA rating for that. On his brain MRI, it showed a couple of white spots. That was at NICO as well. He has PTSD from NICO, anxiety, depression, endocrine dysfunction, some extremely high cortisol levels, and some issues with his kidneys. Sleep apnea, also from NICO, insomnia. Currently, he needs bilateral hip replacements. He needs bilateral shoulder surgeries. He does have headaches and migraines. His migraines are so severe to the point where there's times when he can't drive, so he has to try to manage and mitigate that. He has severe hypervigilance and severe memory loss, some concentration difficulties, dizziness, loss of balance, and your typical clumsiness type things. Continuing with symptoms and issues, he has Ryan has mental fatigue, some issues with his C-spine. He's got L-spine degeneration, some sensitivity to noise and light, hearing problems. He has tinnitus. He has some extreme vision issues, numbness in his hands, his feet, and continual numbness in his thighs. He definitely has allostatic overload, mild ED, chronic joint pain, moderate anger issues, high irritability issues. He has issues with his blood pressure and his cholesterol. And when he was a young lad, he had ADHD. It was controlled, and he came off his meds around the junior high time frame. And then after about 4 deployments as a SWCC operator, all of the symptoms with ADHD became problematic, unmanageable, and he had to continue to deal with that. And then on his last tour, he was deemed undeployable due to some injuries, and then spent the last of his time there at Group 4, and then retired. All right, to recap some of the symptoms or things that Ryan experienced while he was on SWCC boats. He experienced fatigue due to weight pounding on SWCC boats. He experienced dizziness due to weight pounding on SWCC boats. He experienced blackouts and blood in his urine due to weight pounding on SWCC boats. He experienced broken fingers and hand injuries due to weight pounding on SWCC boats and trying to hang on while weight pounding. He experienced whiplash due to weight pounding on SWCC boats. He experienced confusion, lack of focus, and concentration due to weight pounding on SWCC boats. He experienced whole body weight pounding and whiplash at speeds of 65 miles an hour. He experienced weight pounding in seas at and above 10 feet, and he experienced orthopedic injuries due to weight pounding on SWCC boats. Alright, so we tried to figure out traumatic brain injury as it relates to retired SWCC Chief Ryan Hurd. A few things to talk about. The average SWCC logs about 3,000 hours of boat time per deployment cycle. There was a Roche study done. Roche did a study back in 1994 and conducted underway studies on NSW fast boats for a period of 6 days, 36 hours, which totaled to accumulate about 8,610 wave impacts, ranging from 2 to 25 Gs. These 8,610 impacts, out of them, 4,496 impacts ranged at 5 Gs or greater. So these 4,496 5G or greater impacts in 36 hours equals about 124 significant whiplash events in an hour. The average SWCC operator endures about 124 whiplash events in 1 hour operating on fast boats that potentially cause whiplash and TBI. So the average SWCC operator possibly endures over 374,000 significant G-force impacts from wave pounding on SWCC boats in one deployment cycle. Due to Ryan's 8 deployments, multiplying 374,000 plus impacts times 8, we come up with about 2,997 plus significant full body impacts while wave slamming on SWCC boats. And these cause disastrous long-term effects on chronic orthopedic injury, whiplash, and mTBI, and other issues. So to summarize operator syndrome, all of these symptoms for former SWCC operator Ryan Hurd. Etymologically speaking, Ryan is a 48-year-old retired SWCC operator as of right now. This is February 2023. He has 19 years of SWCC boat service, 8+ SWCC deployments, including 24,000 hours of SWCC boat time, causing potentially over 2.9 million significant full body impacts while wave pounding on SWCC boats. Ryan has over 23 symptoms of mTBI and a nexus of operator syndrome symptoms. He endured whiplash, blackouts, urinated blood from wave pounding on significant G-forces from full body wave pounding exposure. Ryan went to NICO while on active duty and was diagnosed with TBI, PTSD, and numerous post-concussion symptoms, which impede his quality of life. Long-term effects of mTBI and major orthopedic injuries are debilitating for SWCC operators like Ryan. He has a 100% disability rating from the VA. According to Ryan, when he was a young SWCC operator, first getting on the SWCC boats, he did not have any significant mental, physical, or emotional impairments compared to now after 19 years of being on SWCC fast boats. And for the record, Brian does not have a history of contact sports. Okay, there are some conclusions to draw from this ongoing project. So far, I've done about 18 interviews or looked at some record reviews from former SWCC operators. 100% of SWCC operators interviewed so far have significant TBI exposure contributing to post-concussion symptoms. 100% of SWCC operators interviewed so far experienced full body wave pounding, whiplash, and orthopedic injury from SWCC boats operations, proven to cause mental, emotional, and physical injury. 100% of SWCC operators interviewed so far who never were diagnosed with TBI or before TBI protocols were implemented lack VA ratings for service-connected injuries due to SWCC fast boat service. And as we know, the VA contends these issues were or are not service-connected for the majority of us because we never claimed TBI while on active duty. All SWCC operators who attended NICO while on active duty have VA ratings for TBI, at least the ones that I've interviewed. Information in this presentation provides evidence Ryan was a SWCC operator on SWCC fast boats for multiple deployments, and the aggregate of data collected in these interviews connect long-term TBI and post-concussion syndrome and orthopedic injury to SWCC boat service. Most importantly, thousands of former and retired SWCC operators suffer from long-term mTBI and major orthopedic injury without acknowledgement or help from the VA or DoD with many of these issues. There remains a gap in TBI research on this particular peer group. References for SWCC TBI are listed in my presentation titled SWCC TBI, which is posted on my YouTube page, and right there is the address to it if you want to take a look at it.